that, Mike?
I just have a question. In relation to last year, the year before,
Yes.
321 this year, how does that compare to what we normally see in the
It's
year?
about the same.
So this is not
This is not
anything
anything
that's
new.
different or new?
Right.
This is something
It
that,
piled onto the
The
rest
other
of
issues that
concerns of
arose
issues
as a
of
result
roads
of-
and
okay.
whatnot, so.
so this is something that happens every year?
Right, and it would help with making the first week not as chaotic, so that we would feel, as staff, better putting the kids on the bus every year, knowing that those changes had been made prior to the first day of school starting. Again, taking in, if an emergency happened, which is an emergency, then we would look at that totally different, you know what I mean? So,
Eric?
Not with his 321 changes, are drivers now we have no longer door-to-door pickups, we're having consolidated stops. Are they ensuring that there's a parent or guardian for each one of those kids getting off the bus?
as of right now, they are. They have that, and my intent is that will continue to be that way. They know that K through second.
Because they see a lot of parents and cars there.
We did have we've had some students come back to the elementary school last week, and we have more complaints that the third and fourth graders should have been dropped off at home, but we brought them back. So they are right now checking for that same familiar face that they're seeing in the morning, without dropping, even if they're seeing groups.
I see with the buses overcrowded, driving, I just don't see that driver stopping and saying, okay, bang, 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 all my kids are
Right.
here. Door opens, kids pile out, I'm on to my next stop.
Right. Well, what we had spoken about the last time was keeping the kindergarten through second on the bus first, let the older kids unload, and then so that all that should be left at that point is the K through second graders. The only thing in doing that and keeping in mind is now you're talking time again. So the time delay could be up to that hour before the kids are getting home, which that is, we never enforced it when we had the last meeting, but that's something that I can enforce with the bus company. If it's, it's something that we feel that we'd rather go that direction.
No.
What age do we have to identify a parent or
K
guardian?
through second, up till
Yeah,
second
that's
grade.
what I
So
was
third
actually-
graders can walk home
Third
alone?
graders and fourth graders
can walk home alone?
And that's our procedure,
Right.
it's not even a policy.
What's the furthest distance that
mile.
a kid is, so a third grader's gonna walk a mile home?
Yes.
They can. I don't think there is anybody walking in a mile.
No, I was actually going to, can
I
I
was
just
gonna
speak
complain about
first?
my son
'Cause I
going
haven't had
7
a
houses
chance.
and having to
And
pay
then
for a bus. A mile
It's
is
on that, too.
outrageous.
I actually have similar concerns to you, and I know my son got a newsletter home stating the K through 12, I'm sorry, K through 2, and I know other districts only do K through 1,
Correct.
and don't need to have an adult there, but I'm only going to speak from my own concerns that I would like to see our K through 4 kids having to have somebody there picking them up, now that we are asking that they walk potentially. And
Well,
I
now,
get
in-
it. I get both sides of it, but I just don't feel like it doesn't sit well with me.
Well, now, the only thing in doing that as such is just until we have finished redefining our routes, and you might have third and fourth graders and families, and I'm playing devil's advocate, so I don't mean to do that, but I'm playing the opposite end, that once these routes have been defined more, you might have families that say, if I know that my third and fourth grader are getting out at this area instead of this area, I don't mind them walking home. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not, I see
understand.
both sides of
I
it,
know.
but it's just something that I'm looking at for down the road. I mean, I have a few
This
parents I
one,
haven't
Mike
had
first.
come back.
Can Eric go before you? Because,
No, not really.
no, not
No,
really.
Michael can go.
Okay, well,
I
you
don't
made a
mind Michael. He
face.
raises his hand, it's fine.
Go ahead.
Well, I just think it's important to recognize first, I'm asking for photo IDs on file for every student. But I think more importantly, we have to examine the policy statement here. We're talking about third and fourth graders walking throughout the community alone. That is not our policy. We're not suggesting that. We're just pointing to what the regulations say we can and cannot do, whether it's a mile where we are responsible to deliver them to, and that's dictated. Now I think, I don't know of any that are a mile. I haven't examined the residents and the routes, but I don't think we go a mile.
No.
But we're not suggesting that third or fourth graders should be allowed to travel through the wood paths throughout Westport And I'd like to see a better communication with the parents in terms of safety precautions and after-school activities. I was alarmed with some of the testimony I heard at a Board of Selectmen meeting last week on multiple issues. I don't know if it all was factual, but I would like to see photo IDs, and let's get a newsletter communication out to the parents and guardians.
Two-part question. Dr. Colley, how much did we save budget-wise by consolidated bus stops out of the budget?
About 33.
33,900.
We just heard earlier tonight, we have a $150,000 circuit breaker. I'd much rather pick up kids at every stop, like we did last year, safety reasons wise, than hire a special ed assistant director and go back to the way things were, if that's possible, because
May
kids
I-
walking a half a mile, we're gonna hire another administrator. I'd rather have the kids picked up door to door, and it's only $30,000, we've got it.
One, it's not 158 because you already agreed to hire
69
a
of it is
teacher.
gone.
66 is gone. Two, regardless of what you do, you're still going to need to answer the state in terms of that requirement. So I'm just saying, the state's requiring this, we've skated.
But we have to answer that question of when a kid doesn't make it home because he gets dropped off the bus and walked 3/4 of a mile. I'd rather answer it to the state than to a parent saying, sorry this happened to your child.
But again, over the next 2 weeks, week and a half, I'm still going to be revisiting these roads to try to accommodate, not accommodate, but to make sure that students are not walking more than the same distance fairly amongst everyone. You know, a couple of these big not neighborhoods or off-roads or whatever it is that we want to call them, is that these students are in family areas, and if we can get a bus to go within those areas, after me getting my week along the way here, and putting stops within those areas, 1, 2, 3 stops, we're not talking a lot of stop areas. We're talking maybe 3 or 4 areas right now, that's it. We can get them into there to keep them off of the main road that's in there and make them, you know, so Johnny's only going .2 and the other one's only going .3, you're starting to, they're not even still walking a half a mile. I'm not going against safety by no means. I have 3 children, I have a nephew, I have cousins. You
You're only
know,
doing what
all
you've
of
been
these
told,
students
Michelle.
that have come through Westport, I've had in kindergarten. I have kids at the high school right now that I was in classrooms with them. So, you know, I can relate to everyone when it comes to these children, that, you know, I don't want to see them not picked up or not dropped off or anything. I'm at this job now because I still want to be participating in those kids' life, however that may be. So in looking at that, my anticipation is to try to get those buses into those areas off Charlotte White Road, a little bit off of State Road, you know, even if it's 1 stop here and there, but to try to get it so it still does accommodate all of our students and keep them safe. And, you know, it is a great time for families and neighbors to come together and start looking out for each other. I mean, you know, we're in a society where years ago, 34 years ago, one of the other ladies that was here, that's what families did. You looked out for each other. You got to know your neighbors. You knew who your neighbors were. As the kids got older, they were the perfect kids to babysit because they were your neighbor's kid. You know, I'm not saying I'm against the safety. I'm not saying, I'm looking at both ends. I'm looking at it as an administrator, and I'm looking at it as a parent, and I'm looking at it as what my job is to do. And I do feel that over the next 2 weeks, I can get some of those routes into some of these areas that have been of concern to try to work our way back in. Maybe no, not door to door, but maybe be within a viewable distance that you can see, okay, I know he's getting off 5 houses over. I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Type of thing. So they're not parking on the main roads. So that's my intention. I mean, I can't sit here tonight and tell you, I can do that tonight. You know, right now I've tried to keep the capacity, I'm working on the capacity for the rest of this week, and I probably will be working on this situation over the weekend. And my hope is too, my goal when I first started this for the first day of school was within 2 weeks, is to be able to have an answer to people. And that's where I stand at this point.
You do an amazing job, I'm not saying that.
Oh,
by
no,
any
no,
means.
and I know that. I wanted,
I wanna watch
I
your
wanted
job.
people to know that the safety thing, it is a number one concern. That's not, I'm not ignoring that piece or saying, but I do feel with a budget that we've had, I think that we have looked at this for a long time, and we went from 19 routes a long time ago because we had 2,100 kids. And I think we've had a lot of buses last year that would have 12 kids on them at a time, 13 kids on them at a time. You know, the bus drivers were out for 20 minutes and they were back at the school, sitting there, just sitting there waiting. So I think it does take some time to work these routes. It does take some time to look at the areas and see what we have and see the capacity that those, you know, and make sure the kids are comfortable on the bus. We're not over capacity. The timing is right where it needs to be. The safety of where they're being picked up and dropped off. Sanford Road this week, starting tomorrow, right side pickup only. So that's a huge thing. That takes care of, right there, that's 3 buses. That's about 150 kids per run for the middle high school, Mac Elementary School. So those kids now will be right side pickup. You know, I'm working towards that to get us there. And, you know, this isn't a whole year. This is within another week and a half, we'll be there.
Carolina?
I just, to Michael's point, I don't think we're telling parents whether, I mean, K through 2 we are, there has to be an adult. But if parents are not uncomfortable with their their third grader walking the .2, .3, that's up to the parent. I don't think we're telling parents, we're just going to drop your child off. If you tell us you need to be there, then you're there. I think that what Michael said is it's not us dictating that piece of the responsibility with regards to the older students. It's the parent's choice as to whether they feel comfortable allowing that third grader go the .2, or whether they say, no, I need somebody at that stop to walk that child to home. That's not us dictating that decision. That is, unfortunately, the circumstances that we've been dealt with regard to not being able to do how to house. I'm assuming that if the third grader is walking the .2, there's somebody at the house. So that somebody should be able to go to the bus stop. I don't know that to be a fact. But again, that becomes the parent, the guardian's choice as to whether they want that person at the stop or not. And if they tell us, don't let the child off the bus because we need somebody there, I'm sure that you will accommodate the instructions, so that is what happens. The third grader doesn't get off the bus if that parent says, if I'm not at that bus stop, take them back to the school.
And we could do a home survey.
Right, that would be the other piece
To
of it.
see what families think, what, you know, and we could put a piece in there, if your child has to walk to a bus stop within a half a mile, you know, we can put a couple of different things on the survey, send it out, get it back, and see what, you know, see what we get back and what families feel.
Michael?
Yes, I had a couple of points I wanted to get back to once again. First, a little background. I have to rely on my experience as a parent and the arrangements we made for our daughter, who was a student here in Westport. I always assumed that the bus driver knew the neighbor that we used to have Erin get off at their house. I always assumed that, my daughter, I'm sorry, she's not watching. But I will tell a story that was upsetting back, certainly for her. It's on her short list of you know, worst things that ever happened to her. When she was, it was either K, it was probably K, kindergarten. She used to go to daycare in Fall River, right down Blossom Road. And so, of course, the buses didn't go into Fall River, but her babysitter would always pick her up. And she was dropped off with apparently some kids, and it was her good sense to go and hide behind a house until the person arrived. And certainly we applaud her making the right choice, but it was a hell of a day for the babysitter, who we continue to be friends with, but it's an awful thing. But I want to get back to what I keep mentioning, and I want to ask if in the way of an emergency motion, I could ask that any change starting on Monday that comes to your office has a photo ID.
It's an informational,
That's why I framed it in the way of an emergency response to something. We've, you know, we're not on day one, it's not in August. This is something we have to respond to now. So in the form of a motion, I'm asking if that can go through.
Yeah, I would just
Carolina
make
has
the
a response to
suggestion that the notice go out that if parents want to offer the ID and make it part of the change, it's up to the parent. The parent is the one that should have the concern for their child's safety. We do too, but ultimately it is the parent's decision.
Is that a second to the motion that's on
No.
the floor, or is the motion not on the floor? Let's have some
I'm addressing the issue that this is an informational session.